Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a very unique edition of Top Shelf Sports. As my brother from another, Al Fisher, would say, it's the most wonderful time of the year, even though it's not winter yet. But, we'll get into that. But first and foremost, got to welcome in the in-house vandal. Not that kind of vandal, but the University of vandal, NFL analyst, Mr. Coffee Jones. Coffee, what's up, buddy?
Doug, how you doing, man? I hope everything is well and safe over there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. And Courier Post, Eagles beat writer, Mr. Josh Friedman. Josh, what's up?
How you guys doing? I'm hanging in there like everyone else, right? Everyone's just trying to survive all this.
Yeah, man. We were hoping we'd have like real fancy graphics. We'd be in the studio. We'd be able to do our thing, but we're gonna make do like everybody else has been these last couple weeks. And so, speaking of making do, Al, you look like you're dressed to sit in the 700 level at Old Veteran Stadium.
Oh, I was there, but not the 700 level, the 250 level. What was it? 10-yard line behind the visitor's bench. A lot of yelling at LT back in the day.
Okay.
But listen, real quick. I don't feel worthy with these guys because they're so knowledgeable. So I'm going to do my best to keep up with you guys.
All right. Well, you're not really worthy to sit with these guys, but hey, it's live streaming. So what?
All right, I'm out.
All right, here we go. All right. So, guys, let's jump right into it. And our buddy Steve Wescott might be joining us shortly as well. He's got some technology challenges, but that is what it is. Guys, first and foremost, for those of you that are out there watching in Facebook land, you can actually see us not just on Facebook. You can also go on YouTube. So if you are an Xfinity customer, you can hold the blue button down and say BFA Live NFL Draft Special on YouTube, and it'll pop right up on your television screen. And feel free to comment below. So if you comment below on Facebook, we'll be able to put your comments up and join in on the action. So that being said, I guess it's time to kick it off. And guys, so what do you think? Eagles' biggest need going into the 2020 NFL Draft? Coffee, we will hand the football off to you.
It's got to start at the skill position. Obviously, wide receiver is a big need. When you give Carson Wentz the type of contract that the Eagles gave him a year or so ago, you got to put weapons around him. And the guys that they've had over the last couple of seasons have started to get banged up. When you look at Alshon Jeffrey and Sean Jackson, I mean, they're looking at $25 million against the cap this year. So wide receivers got to be at the top of the list, with cornerback being the close second. Even though they picked up an all-star like Darius Slay to kind of man one of the corners, I still think they got to go wide receiver first.
Wide receiver is a big need, but my number one's linebacker. There is nobody on the depth chart there. Nate Jerry's your best linebacker right now, and nothing against Nate. That's not who I want my number one linebacker to be. So I certainly agree with you. Wide receiver would be in the top two, but for me, there is no bigger need right now than a linebacker. A linebacker you can count on right there. I think that's a huge problem for them that they need to solve in this draft.
Al?
I'm going to disagree with Josh and agree with Coffee. I believe wide receiver is number one. Number two is wide receiver. Then maybe number three is linebacker. So definitely big holes for Carson. Needs some toys, and I really believe he needs some toys to play with to make this offense work. The way they're talking now, remember he said defense wins Super Bowls. It's now offense wins Super Bowls. So let's get him some toys. Let's let him play with him, and let's get surround him with some good players.
All right. Look who I found in the locker room. Stevie Wescott.
Uh-oh.
Georgie Animal Field, welcome to the show. Not
there
a lot.
He is.
Welcome.
All right, Stevie's on AOL.
Gentlemen, how's everybody?
Is he in Iceland?
Yeah, he might be. I don't know. Sure. So let's talk about the makeup, right? So
you might have to pardon me. I'm suffering through some static issues here, so don't mind me if I'm a little bit hesitant to the conversation.
All right, you got it. So, guys, let's talk a little bit about if the top needs on this group look to be wide receiver and linebacker. The makeup of the Eagles roster right about now. Al, how are you feeling about it?
Well, obviously there's some holes. There's holes at linebacker, to Josh's point, and I do agree with him. It is a priority, but I didn't think it was the top priority. So there's still depth issues, especially in the secondary. We've got players there that can play, but they're not necessarily – we don't need elite level players because the Eagles' defense relies on their front four or their front five and putting pressure on the quarterback, which takes pressure off the secondary. But I'd like to see us still get a decent cornerback somewhere in the mid rounds. I'm not going to start dropping names now, but I really think it still should be some type of priority for the Eagles. But again, on the offensive side of the football, wide receiver, they definitely need a running back that can pound the football, like Jordan Howard. We don't need a Jordan Howard-esque player, but someone similar to him. It doesn't have to be a shifty player. But really get weapons for Carson, and let's fill the holes on the defensive side. I'm always a defensive guy, always been all my life. But definitely in this draft, which is the watershed draft for Howie, we definitely need to surround him with some toys.
Cool. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no doubt they need some weapons. I mean, I like Miles Sanders. I think he can be a really good back.
Yep.
The question and the biggest question right now is what's Deshaun at? I think that plays a huge part in this. Where Deshaun is health wise. If Deshaun, everyone thinks everyone's forgetting about him right now, but after week 1 last year, he looked like the second coming again. He had that great week 1 last year. Everyone remembers that. And then the injury, and then you now you're just all left with these questions. If he becomes that, if he's back to that guy again, I don't know if receiver is as depleted as some people are making it out to be. Obviously, Alshon needs to get back right to where he needs to be, and everyone's writing off JJ. And I know he still has a lot to prove, but it's just a second-year guy. I mean, you don't know what he is yet. He's still a total question mark. He could not be good, but you don't know yet. So there's definitely a need there at receiver. I think if you can get one early, and we'll talk about, I think, how we want this first round and stuff to go. I think you go get one, but this draft is so good, so deep a receiver with a lot of guys with a lot of different skill sets. You can make it work if you don't get one right away. And that's when we talk later. I think linebacker, if you can get one of the big ones early, that might be the best way to approach this draft, at least in my opinion.
So, Coffee, big addition so far in free agency has been Slay, right? So, defensively, Al talked about the ability to do the coverage, and then you really think that do we have enough weapons to kind of focus more on the offense early in this draft? Or are you pretty satisfied with what you see defensively?
I think you do. Just looking at the draft board, you don't have to reach for a middle linebacker at 21. Now, if you're going to move down a little bit to late in the first round, and guys like Queen and some other players, the kid out of LSU could be a good fit there into the late 20s or early 30s. But for right now, with the defensive line, like we talked about, with Fletcher Cox, you're bringing over Hargrave. You still got Brandon Graham. You got a guy like Barnett who's been kind of forgotten about. You got a stout group up front that you can build around, get out the quarterback and stop the run on early downs. You can plug in a later linebacker to go with those guys like Gary and TJ Edwards to start to get some flow to their game and start to get some snaps under their belt. I think right now you got to go offense because you need to be able to score in today's NFL when you look at teams putting up 25, 30 points a game and everybody's chasing the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, so guys, it's funny. So Kansas City Chief and South Jersey's own Dave Clement, he chimes in and he says, hey, young deep threat because there's no question speedsters get hamstring issues after 30. You got to get someone to stretch the safeties and those tight ends to get open underneath. So, Josh, talk a little bit about that piece of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, Deshaun's getting up there in age, and but you also can't predict injuries. I mean, he got hurt last year. He could have a 16-game year this year. So I think you definitely need speed. I mean, you definitely need someone to stretch the field in some capacity because that was a huge problem last year. Are you going to take that chance in the draft with a guy like Hamler from Penn State who has elite speed but has some drops issues? You have other guys like Bigger and Ayuk from Arizona State, big speed but not necessarily the most refined guys at the moment. After the first three of Ruggs, Judy, and CeeDee Lamb, I think there's enough question marks that depending on how the board falls, it might be prudent to wait, trade back, and get something early, and then back that wide receiver in the second round, and maybe double up second and fourth round. Maybe two of your first 4 or 5 picks at receiver go in that route and take a few dart throws on it because I don't think as deep as this receiver class is, I don't think there's as many sure things as people think there are. I think the top are really great. I think those are Pro Bowlers waiting to happen. I think there are question marks over the next 10 guys. I think the next 10 guys could be Pro Bowlers. They could be busts. We don't know because there's a lot of talent, but there's a lot of inconsistency with a lot of their games. I think Justin Jefferson might be in that next tier, but the experts I'm following, and I'm certainly no expert, there's no guarantee Justin Jefferson makes it to 21 when people talk about receivers. So it's just something to pay attention to. But I think this is a draft where you take 2 or 3 shots at the wide receiver egg and see what sticks.
Yeah. So Al, talk a little bit about that because I know you're big on this wide receiver class. A lot of people are talking about it, but I mean, how many go? I'm hearing rumors that there could be as many as 7 go in the first round.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking Brandon Ayuk, which is a big fan of Josh. Josh is a big fan of his, but there was a mock draft today with Daniel Jeremiah and Peter Schrager from NFL. I think it's NFL.com. Whatever, those two guys. I was actually watching it today. I actually had Dallas taking Justin Jefferson at 17. So you're talking about Judy, Lamb, Ruggs, Jefferson, all being gone before the Eagles pick. And to Josh's point, and I know Coffee mentioned it the other day, that the possibility of trading back and loading up on those draft picks to take advantage of those other positions that might not be as wowing, if you will, but still have quality players. We can fill a lot of holes in that area between the late first round, second and third round, where you're talking about grabbing even possibly a defensive tackle. And I like to hear it from these guys because Fletcher Cox, yeah, he's 29, but that's not – he's been playing a lot of NFL football, so maybe he needs to be backfilled in. You can get a guy like Jordan Elliott. I believe he's out of Memphis to fill that spot as well. So you start getting all your chips in that place where you can start making some quality picks for wide receiver, defensive tackle, linebacker, maybe even a safety in that range. But as far as the wide receivers are concerned, it's a deep class. I mean, you're talking possibly as much as 20 deep with different skill sets, to Josh's point.
Yeah. So, Coffee, talk about that dynamic because that's something that, your philosophy is right now Eagles sit at 21.
Yes,
do they pick at 21?
I think the phone's going to ring. I think there's going to be some calls coming in to Howard Roseman looking to get to that spot because teams are going to have a guy on their board that are in the later in the first round that want to get up to pick their guy. And necessarily, if it's not the Eagles guy who they're coveting, at that point, when you look at the receiver position, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, those guys will be way long gone, probably not even past the top 10. So now when you start talking about Jefferson and some of these other guys in this wide receiver class, even Ruggs may be gone at that point. He may be there. That's a situation where when the phone rings with the right offer, if you can trade back in the first and maybe pick up an additional second round, now you start to fill some other holes like you talked about, defensive line. I think one position we haven't really talked about is offensive line depth. And that'll be something that in the second day of the draft, the Eagles are going to have to address. We lose Big V, Jason Peters. Those two guys played a lot of snaps over the last couple of years due to injuries and need. You're going to have to find somebody that can come in and play a swing tackle type like Big B has done to be able to go right now. And it's some interior guys to kind of back up Kelsey and even Brooks dealing with some injuries as well. That left guard position's kind of been a revolving door. Who's going to settle in there? There's a lot of different holes they could actually plug in on that offensive line. They can pick up more picks.
Yeah. It's real interesting that you talk about that because I think the dynamic as it really continues to move forward, it's just, will they pull the trigger, right? So it's how far are you willing to move up, or more importantly, do you let the draft, come to you and talk a little bit about the energy? So, Al, you and I were at the draft in Nashville last year, 2019. Yeah. Dude, it was unbelievable just from a fan standpoint. But, prior to, we're not really far removed from being a fan in Philly. So, you two guys, interestingly enough, Josh and Coffee, you guys were obviously there and got to cover it and experience it a different way. So, Josh, talk about that. You were there, you were in the crowd, the energy, and now we have a dynamic that people are just clamoring for some sort of live sport or something live, and here comes the NFL draft. So, talk about the energy.
Well, you certainly couldn't do the NFL draft in today's climate the way that was because if you were there, that area was packed. You were shoulder to shoulder with people, it felt like miles and miles down the road. I know it wasn't that far, but it was crazy. It was, I remember being there in the first round, kind of sitting with the crowd when I was writing a story for just their crowd reaction when Barnett was picked. And just, the energy of it was so amazing. And, when the Bears traded up for Trubisky and all the surprises that come with it, there was so much energy. And, I've been a draft guy for as long as I can remember. I was the weird kid, that would sit in my bedroom for for a weekend when it was Saturday and Sunday, when the draft was the best. I'll argue with that with someone all day. When it was Saturday and Sunday for a weekend, that was my Christmas. That was my Hanukkah. That was whatever it was. That was the best time. That was my favorite days of the year. I would order pizza and I'd have a pizza come to me and I wouldn't get out of bed. Those are great days for me. And being there at the draft, my dad always would ask me if I wanted to go to New York and go see it, and being there was really an experience that I always treasure. And having it be in Philly and just having that experience was really something special.
So, Coffee, our buddy Dave Clemick chimes in again. Interesting, you talk about trading up or down. What do you think of this?
Oh, man, Mecole Hardman, that would be a tough situation to pass up. And I think at the end of the day, when you look at trades, it's kind of like trading $100 cash versus $100 of lottery scratchers. You know, the draft is not a science. Some guys hit, some guys don't. It kind of depends on the situation you get into. But one thing you can be for sure of, the guys that have played in the NFL, some of these free agents and veterans, or guys that you could trade for, you've seen what they've done at the NFL level. You don't have to transition or make that assumption of what they're going to do because they played against the SEC or the Big Ten or some top quality opponents or even the small school guys trying to project what they're going to do at this level. Making trades like that. Look, I'm a Georgia fan at heart, a big Georgia Bulldogs fan. I love Mecole Hardman to death. I love his speed. I wish he would have stayed another year. Maybe Georgia could have won a national title. But I think right now, when you look at Deshaun Jackson, the money that he's dead on the books for with his salary cap, I mean, between him and Alshon, you're looking at $25 million regardless on the cap this year. So the Eagles better get as much juice as they can out of those two players for one more season at least, but still be able to look ahead for the future. So I don't think you have to mortgage to trade for a guy like Hardman because he's going to cost something coming from a place like Kansas City. He's coming off a title run. He's a speedster that you definitely need in this type of game. But I think Deshaun can still give you that if he's going to be healthy. What does Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson think about his longevity and how much he really has in the tank?
So, I don't necessarily view Mecole Hardman being available either. I mean, I think he's a rookie last year. It's wishful thinking. I know a lot of fans, we do that sometimes. Like we want a name, but I don't think Hardman's going anywhere.
So, Al, you like to run all of the different scenarios about what you think potentially could happen from a trade standpoint. So, was Mecole Hardman on your radar?
No. Mecole Hardman?
Yeah.
He's already with another team. The Chiefs aren't going to trade him. They're not going to trade him. He's on a rookie contract. Why would they get rid of him?
I agree.
He's a value. He's a value in staying in Kansas City. God forbid it. What do we have to trade to give it? We're not going to trade a draft pick for him. No. The kid's got great talent. He's fast, but no, we would not do that.
Sure.
So no. If the question just about Mecole Hardman, no.
Okay.
No.
Coffee, take us behind the curtain at the NFL draft. So you've been backstage, you've been right next to rubbing elbows with the commissioner.
I mean, it's an amazing experience. We obviously working side by side with Jaws for the last few years. I've gotten some access to some great events. He was on the chair committee with the Conventions Bureau of Philadelphia to bring the draft here to Philadelphia. And in hindsight, we're kind of sad that he didn't get back that second year and they let it go to Dallas. But it is what it is. You'll deal with that in the NFL in another way. But it was an amazing experience, and that's what kind of kicked off this kind of traveling event of the NFL draft, making the NFL a 365. There is no offseason type of deal because of the fanfare and the love that was shown here in Philadelphia. I mean, the economic impact. I've heard upwards of $100 million for the city and for the region in South Jersey. I mean, people all over down to the coast of Atlantic City were coming down to Philadelphia, and you look at 9 different NFL locations and cities within somewhat driving distance of Philadelphia. It was the perfect spot. Being there with the commissioner, when Jaws, he gets to make the second pick for the Philadelphia Eagles in the second round. And it was funny. I'll tell you a funny story, and you guys probably saw it live or on TV. When the commissioner come out, everybody in the crowd boos him like crazy. I mean, it's night and day. And then when Jaws come up, they cheer like crazy. And when the commissioner comes back, they boo him again. Like, it was the funniest thing. And as he would come on stage, he would walk back to his green room with him, Jaws, and I, and they would both laugh about it. Like, I mean, with the commissioner's payday, when he gets paid, I would take some of those boos as well. But it was a great experience to see the fans, to see when the Eagles obviously picked a guy like Derek Barnett with their first round pick. You talked about Trubisky, the Patrick Mahomes. I mean, there's a lot of different moves that happened in that first round that was just so much buzz right down there at the Parkway. You can't top what Philly did.
So can I ask a question, Doug? So
Sure.
Coffee, we passed on Dalvin Cook, right, in that draft? You still happy with the pick of Derek Barnett over Dalvin
I think
Cook?
it worked out for a guy like Miles Sanders that you can get later on a
True.
second round deal, which is a little bit cheaper than what Dalvin Cook has been. He's obviously dealt with a few injuries in his time up there in Minnesota. So it kind of works out. If you can get, two players at a different price, at a different rate. And that's kind of one thing that's interesting about the draft. When we talk about there's 250, 300 guys in these draft boards and these mock drafts, teams would love to have any of them.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, when you draft him, determine what you're going to pay him for the next 4 years, what he's going to be guaranteed. And that's going to be a problem. And if you wait too late, somebody else may get him for one, or you're dealing with a situation like Dak Prescott's dealing with in Dallas. You get a sleeper in a guy like that leads your team to a couple division titles, a playoff run, makes a Pro Bowl. He's going to want to get paid. And I'm not talking about a good deal, a reasonable deal among the top five. These type of guys that get drafted later in the third round, they've been making $800,000, $1 million a year. They're trying to be the highest paid player at their position. They'll be willing to hold out. So it's kind of a crapshoot when you look at where you draft these guys because they're all talented.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple guys I'm going to give a shout out to as well real quick, guys. So Billy Gore. So wants to say what's up, fellas? Mr. Baseball extraordinaire over there now at Gloucester Catholic. So he says, what's up, Josh, and the rest of the fellas? Wish he was in North Carolina, as they would be on their spring break trip right now. And a shout-out, to Oakcrest High School head coach Eric Anderson. So it looks like he is watching. And then, of course, the voice of Williamstown, Chris Losey.
Oh,
Chris.
That's your partner in crime, Coffee.
Yes, sir.
And so want to jump back in. We talked about a little bit of movement, too. So it looks like Dave Clemick, he's not giving up on Mecole Hardman here, guys. So,
I'm telling you, you gotta let that one go. Like you said, the biggest thing that Josh said, he's on a rookie deal. And guys that are talented on rookie deals, they're not going anywhere. You see a guy, we talked about Fletcher Cox trying to look for a replacement for him. His salary cap is only going to go up as Carson Wentz does as well. So you're looking at two guys that's going to be bringing in 30 to 40% of your salary cap. That's a lot of space that they're going to be eating up. You can't fill other holes. It gets a little pricey at that rate once you get to that second contract. So guys that are on their first deal, especially a guy that was picked, I think, third or fourth round for Hardman, he's too cheap of an asset for the Kansas City Chiefs to even think about letting go.
And he didn't have a big enough season last year where you wouldn't be selling high. You'd be selling kind of on potential still. Which, right. There's just I think it would take it like a second round pick or something to get him, and I don't think the Eagles are paying that right now. So
no.
I just think it's wishful thinking, unfortunately, for Eagles.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of wishful thinking, guys, why don't we try to be prognosticators and go through the first round and see what the Eagles may end up with here?
I like it.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
So I guess, Al, I will give you the first pick. So here's something that you'll never hear in your life ever. With the first pick in the 2000 and name your year draft, X team selects Al Fisher from the DeSales University. I don't
DeSales University.
I don't think it'll happen ever.
He's playing left bench.
Playing well. Hall of Famer right there. All right. So the first pick. Who's the first pick in this draft?
The first pick overall? Are we talking about?
Let's get there real quick.
Oh, so we're going through the whole draft itself.
Well, if you actually paying attention when we did the pre-show last night, you would have picked this up.
So the Cincinnati Bengals select Joe Burrow.
Wow, that was so difficult, wasn't it?
That was easy.
Oh, okay.
Come on. The guy's a franchise quarterback. 15 years of this guy behind the center. Come on.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Captain Obvious. All right. Let's go over to Josh.
The Redskins have to take Chase Young.
Yeah.
Potential. And I tell you what, those Ohio State pass rushers the last few years have all hit. So there's just no way to pass on that. I know the Redskins are actually okay on defensive end, but it's never bad to get more pressure on the quarterback. So
fair enough. Coffee, that means you get number 3.
Third pick, I mean, you look at the board right now, you're not talking about a team that's going to be needing a quarterback with the Detroit Lions because they got a lot of money tied up into Matt Stafford still. I think you got to go corner, Jeff Okudah out of Ohio State. That's pretty much the consensus on everybody's draft board behind Chase Young. If there's no movement going on, the Lions need some help. You lose Darius Slate here to the Philadelphia Eagles, a guy who's a former All-Pro and a Pro Bowler. You got to fill that position. You talk about Ohio State pass rushers hitting. Ohio State cornerbacks, they've arguably been the quiet DBU, so says ESPN, over the last few years with the guys they put out in the first round and secondary.
Not quiet. Certainly not quiet if you watch football.
We'll go back to you, Al, at 4.
So it's very obvious the New York Giants have problems on the front offensive line. So it's Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle.
All right. Big O tackle. Why not? Makes sense, especially with Saquon in the backfield. Need somebody to plow him down the field because I still think they're going to have quarterback challenges. Just my opinion. I'm not sold on him. Not sold on him.
Ooh, I like Daniel Jones.
Not sold on him. He had challenges with accuracy when he was at Duke. Couldn't throw the out pattern, and I think he has a challenge to read the defenses.
He's still young. I try. I do my best. He had some promising showings last year, but you can't judge anybody after 1 year. I thought he showed some promise last year, and I was skeptical. So I don't think there's any reason to shut the door on Daniel Jones at all. I think he showed enough promise to actually have, if you're a Giants fan, to feel optimistic. Certainly not going to call either way at this point after a year, but there were certainly some positive signs last year.
All right. So then you got the next pick here. So at number 5.
I mean, if you're Miami, I think you got to take quarterback here. And I know everyone's talking about Herbert right now, jumping into the 2 spot at the quarterback, but he was so inconsistent at Oregon for me when I watched him play. I like Tua. I mean,
yes,
it was tank for Tua until Burrow had a historic year. And if you get Tua at 5, I mean, I know he had the injury, and I know there's questions about his durability, but I think I know a professional, a big-time football writer posed the question: if you know you can get Tua as an Andrew Luck prospect with everything you know about Andrew, leaving after so many years with injuries and what he accomplished, would you take that if that was Tua? I would. I mean, he led the team to the playoffs every year, and accurate as all can be, tons of ability. I don't know how you'd pass on Tua if I'm Miami if he was there at 5.
So, Coffee, before you make your pick for the Superchargers, do you see Miami taking 2 quarterbacks in this draft?
That I don't, especially when you talk about a guy like Tua that you're going to invest so much money into. I think that they would take Tua and then try to fill another position. When you look at taking 2 quarterbacks, especially if you're trying to think in first or second round, it's going to be pretty expensive against your salary cap. I mean, these quarterbacks, if you're talking top 5 pick, that's going to be a guaranteed around $28, $30 million payday for that first pick. That's kind of a lot of money. I don't see them taking, at least not early. Maybe if you spread them out, 5th or 6th round, you try to take a flyer on another guy that may be a project. But at that pick, I like Tua to Miami.
All right. Well,
I'd just say this. I think they should take 2 QBs. They're certainly not high. I wouldn't go 2 first-round picks on them, but I mean, it worked for the Redskins with Griffin and Cousins. Fitzpatrick's not going to be there forever. Why not throw a dart at a 5th rounder when you have all these picks? I mean,
I like it.
Tua's got durability. Tua has the question marks health wise. I'd absolutely throw a dart at the quarterback. I always throw darts you always throw darts at quarterbacks.
Well,
what's going to happen? What's the worst that's going to happen? You miss or you hit a home run like Tom Brady. Throw a dart at the quarterback always.
Yeah,
good call.
I feel that. So. A team that is a little light in the quarterback department is at number 6, Coffee, and that's the LA Chargers.
You know what's funny? I was thinking that you're going to throw a dart at a guy. I think this would be the big wow moment. I know you guys were both, at draft in Philadelphia and at the draft in Nashville. You could hear kind of the crowd buzz when there's a trade made or somebody is kind of off the radar and not on most people's mock drafts. I think Justin Herbert could go here. If the Chargers stay there, I think he's a West Coast kid. I mean, we talked about Justin Herbert could have been, the top quarterback taken in last year's draft. He decided to come back to Oregon, try to work on some things, showed some flashes against some top-level opponents like LSU, but then you've seen some of the bad things, some of the interceptions. I mean, I listened to Herm Edwards on Colin Cowherd the other day, 2 games against Arizona State's defense, and that, NFL mindset that Herm brings. Herbert threw 4 interceptions in 2 games, against him. So that's kind of a little bit of a scary part, but he's got the arm talent as good as anybody in this class or better. I think Herbert to the Chargers would be a good pick for them.
All right, well, fair enough. Apparently, Al hit the jump out of the picture button, so let's see if we can get back in. Hey, look, it's the guy that can't follow directions, Al Fisher. How you doing?
What do you mean follow directions? I just jumped. Somehow I lost the signal.
What do I do with my hands?
Can you hear me?
You got number 7, man.
Yes.
Panthers, and
Carolina Panthers select Derek Brown, defensive tackle out of Auburn.
Deep tackle out of Auburn. All right. So who's throwing the football this year for Carolina, by the way?
I don't know. Anybody want to help me on that one?
Bridgewater's the quarterback.
Yeah, but who are you going to take?
Bridgewater's the guy. I think he's gonna do
Bridgewater's
well
right.
there. I love
That's
Teddy.
right. Yeah.
Is he?
He's great.
I like him.
I kind of baited you on that one because I'm like, is that guy really a franchise quarterback?
Well, no one said he's got to be a franchise quarterback, but I think the guy's got the skill set.
Okay.
He was a first-round draft pick, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah.
Bottom of the first? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Out of Louisville.
Yeah.
Sure. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll go to number 8, Josh, Arizona Cardinals.
They got to protect Kyler. I like Becton out of Louisville. That guy is just all kinds of unworldly potential. I'd take a shot there. I think he could do really well.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty strong. So then that means I know what Fournette's been saying about the Jacksonville Jaguars. So at number 9, he looks around and is like, who are these guys? He doesn't even know who's in the locker room anymore.
I mean, this is going to be a crazy one for Jacksonville. If you're sitting at this position the way we've drafted, you got a guy like Jerry Jeudy still on the board or Isaiah Simmons at linebacker. I think it's hard to pass up Jeudy, and somebody's going to be screaming and so happy behind you. Well, especially you look at Cleveland being next. They really don't need a wide receiver. They got 2 pretty good ones themselves. I think they go defensively and go with a guy like Isaiah Simmons out of Clemson. He's a do-everything linebacker. I mean, they talked to him the other day in an interview, and with the tape that he's watched, it's been, Jalen Ramsey and Von Miller and Tyrann Mathieu. Like, he's a hybrid that can play kind of anywhere on the field and be a Pro Bowler at any different position, from safety to a pass rusher. I think that's a good fit for Jacksonville and the guys they've had come through there defensively that have made some Pro Bowls.
Hey, Al, before you draft at 10, I'm the Eagles calling because there's no receivers taken yet.
Oh,
First and second round for Cleveland's 10 spot to get their top pick of receiver. What do you think?
Wait. Say that again.
Eagles offer their first and their second to jump up to 10 to grab their first receiver off the board. What do you think?
Well, if I'm the Browns, I'm taking that. But if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm not doing
I'm asking
it.
you both ways.
I agree.
Well, see, here's what I would do. I would offer our first-round pick and next year's 2021 second-round pick in that deal.
Not going to get it done.
Yeah,
I don't think that gets it
what
done.
What about a player on top of it?
Who are you trading?
All right, let's say Rasul Douglas.
Interesting Cleveland. I mean,
how about Rasul?
I don't
Cleveland
know
could use the
a
D-backs.
player, but I'm just more proposing first and second to go for the Eagles to go get that top receiver. Everyone, that's the biggest need. And I think the guys up top, those first 3, have the least amount of question marks. Just propose the idea.
So
the more I thought about it, I'm always a trade back guy. I kind of like the idea of moving up this year to go get one of those big 3 personally.
I like it, Josh. I like what you're proposing. If I'm Cleveland, I'm taking it.
All
right? I'm jumping on it. My heart is telling me as an Eagles fan, if CeeDee Lamb is sitting there or even Jerry Jeudy.
I say in this draft, all 3 are there. So
yeah, I'm not a huge Ruggs fan.
Both said receivers the biggest need. They still have 6 picks in the first 4 rounds. You give up your 1 and 2, you still have a 3 and 3 4s. Linebacker drops off after Murray and Queen. Just a thought.
No, I like it.
I think you got to get up to 10 to get a receiver.
So who are you taking in that spot then? If you're making me that deal, who are you taking, Josh?
I like Jeudy, and I'm a big Jeudy guy. He reminds me of Amari Cooper. I know a lot of people say OBJ, but when I watched Amari at Alabama, I was actually a Kevin White fan out of that draft over Amari. But the thing I loved about Amari was his route running was as good as I've ever seen. He just had drops, and that's what concerned me. And you kind of see that still to this day. He does have some drops issues every now and then. Jeudy doesn't have those, and he gets open. He always is open. I mean, that guy is – I never see him not – you rarely see him not open on the football field. I think he's going to be a star.
If that's going to get it done, Josh, if it's going to get it done and we're going to get Jerry Jeudy, I'm doing the deal.
Jerry Jeudy for the deal. We're trading draft picks. All right.
We can't follow this.
We can't trade. It was just a proposal. Everyone's talking about trade. Everyone's talking trade back. Just floating the idea of possibly moving up.
Well, he starts dropping at 10. That's where you're like, well.
Yeah, Josh, I love it, man. Love it. Thanks for bringing that to me. So okay. I'm making a deal, but we can't. How do we follow this on our?
Let's play it like it's not. We'll go back to Cleveland. I just wanted to throw that idea for the listeners and see if they had anything to say. But my colleague at Wilmington, Martin Frank, pointed out today. Roseman has traded his first round pick 6 of the 9 times he's had it since he's been a GM. 66% of the time he's moved, whether forward or back.
Wow, interesting.
Just saying.
So Mike McCarthy, who's your pick here?
Mike McCarthy?
Yeah, Cleveland
So
Browns.
I'm staying at Cleveland. I'm staying at number 10, right?
Yeah.
So I think we need to protect our quarterback. I think we're going to go Jedrick Willis, offensive lineman, offensive tackle.
All right. The big piece there. I got you. I like it. So, Josh, that means at 11, there's going to be somebody standing out in the streets of New York somewhere chanting Jets, 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 Jets. So at the 7 and 9, New York Jets.
I think this is the most realistic spot for first receiver to come off the board if there's no trades up to get one.
Yeah.
But in this draft, those first 4 offensive tackles are really good. And if I'm the Jets, I can't pass on one of those. I'd go get Thomas from Georgia, and I'd stick personally.
Wow.
Ooh.
I'm getting the goosies as an Eagles fan. The wide receivers keep dropping down. I'm getting excited.
Yeah. So the next pick then, Colby, a team with a lot of fanfare, but a lot of seems to be never-ending drama, questions about, Mike Mayock and his capacity as a GM. So the first pick of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Well, obviously I got some ties through Jaws and some of the connections I've made with their coaching staff out there in Las Vegas now. I'm going to say LA. But I'm a Raiders fan at heart when they were back in the Coliseum. I'm sad to see them go. They got to go wide receiver right now. If they're going to hitch their wagon to their quarterback room, they've already got trust Derek Carr, but Mariota coming in. You got to go Jerry Jeudy. He's the top guy on most people's board. I personally like CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb is more of a specific Dez Bryant 50-50 ball type, but John Gruden loves his speed wide receivers. If you talk about the comparisons to guys like Amari Cooper and other people, Odell Beckham, I think you go Jerry Jeudy right there. First wide receiver comes off the board as well.
Call Coffee. Answer your phone. I'm calling you. I want to make a deal. I'm the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to give you our first. We've already dropped down a couple. You're at number 12. I want to give you this year's first. So you're going to drop down 9. Next year's 2021. And Rasul Douglas because you need help in secondary. You going to do it?
I don't think Gruden will. I think at that point, I think they could ask for a lot more with one wide receiver. No wide receivers coming off the board at that point. I think it would be too expensive for Howie to try to move up. I think it'll cost this year's first and next year's, maybe even another player. And regardless of it, I don't think the Raiders want to fall back all the way down to 21 to get Lamb or Jeudy if they could have had. Okay,
good call.
So Brent Holmes chimes in. Will the Eagles beat the Cowboys this year with this draft?
Oh, of course.
They beat them last year.
You got Jerry Jones running the show. Come on, please. Please.
Oh, Lord. Hey, always gotta get your digs in. All right. Now, that means I believe as I'm trying to keep track here, back to you, the number 13 with the San Francisco 49ers, a early Super Bowl favorite.
It's going to who, me or Josh?
Yeah, I think it's you. I think you were after coffee.
Wait a minute. Did Jerry Jeudy get picked yet?
Yes.
All right, so guess what?
Jerry did get off the board.
Guess what? We got to go. Here's what we're going to do, though. We're going to go Henry Ruggs, not CeeDee Lamb. We're going Henry Ruggs. Speed kills. Fits right in our offensive philosophy. Speed kills. Henry Ruggs.
Can Jimmy G throw the football down the field?
Sure he can. Come on. Please.
You look at his average. You can look at his average toss, dude. It is not a guy that goes down the field.
Well, I'm telling you right now, we're going Henry Ruggs. It's going to fit perfectly.
Right. So when Kyle Shanahan, just think of this, right? So how many touchdowns did Julio Jones average when Kyle Shanahan was calling the offense in Atlanta?
Yeah, but that's not the point, though. I mean, they've got an offense. What are you talking about?
You're talking his speedster. Julio Jones was the biggest target that there was on the field. He still never threw him the football.
Julio Jones wasn't necessarily the fastest guy in the world. I mean, I love him. First of all, I've drafted him so many times in fantasy football.
And that's paid off.
What's that?
That's paid off.
Yeah, well, it has sometimes. It happened a couple of years ago, didn't it?
All right. So I got you. I don't want to slow down things.
He's a different player. He's a different player than Julio Jones.
All right. So
he's a much faster player. It fits in their offensive scheme. Excuse me.
Josh, 15. We go to the Denver Broncos.
Tampa, right? Tampa at 14?
Tampa. Yep.
Sorry, I'm skipped. Yeah, 14 Tampa. So Tom Brady, actually, isn't it called what the hell? He trademarked it now. So it's not it's no longer Tampa Bay.
It's Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay.
What?
There you go.
Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
Well, strangely, I think they'd love to get a tackle. They don't. The first four don't fall here. I think it'd be hard for them to pass on Henderson from Florida. But the way this board falls, I know they have Evans and Godwin slotting outside. You put CeeDee Lamb there with Tom Brady.
Oh, God.
Evans and Godwin. I think they're a sneaky spot for a wide receiver if the tackles don't get to them, or if they get one. I'm taking CeeDee Lamb there. I just, the way this board falls, I think that put Evans on one side, Lamb on the other, Godwin in the slot. Who's stopping that with Tom?
So a good debate here, right? So Kevin Allen asks, Coffee, Lamb or Judy as good as a prospect as, say, Julio?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Different.
I can't argue with it. I can't argue with it.
Yeah.
Different guys. I think
are 1 and 2, and a lot of mock drafts had Denver right behind them, looking for a receiver as well. And if he's sitting right there, Tom Brady would obviously come from a team that had pretty much no weapons last year with him in New England, to have a plethora of weapons and to be able to add one with a guy like CeeDee Lamb sitting there when the Bucks pick. I think that would be scary for the NFC South. Let me just say that.
All right. Fair enough. So that means we're going over to number 15.
15.
Denver Broncos.
Denver, they got a lot of holes to fill. I mean, they did pick up a running back, Melvin Gordon. You traded for A.J. Bouye. You did lose some other weapons on defense. So I think you got to go defensively, which is kind of the staple of their Super Bowl 50 championship run. With a guy like Lamb being off the board, because you'd hate to pass him up at 15. C.J. Henderson out of University of Florida. A lot of people think he could be the next best corner in this draft class, even ahead of Christian Fulton out of LSU. With the Kuda off the board, you match him up with A.J. Bouye. You still got Von Miller and those guys up front getting after quarterbacks. Denver would be a good pick to go defensively and pick up a solid cover corner.
All right. Strong. Very strong. I like it. Al, that means we go to the Atlanta Falcons.
Atlanta Falcons. A lot of talent sitting out there, so Atlanta could always use a little help up front on the defensive side. And there's a stud sitting there, Javon Kinlaw. Love him at defensive tackle. One of my favorite players in the draft, by the way. Love him. I'm taking him. Move forward to the next pick, brother.
Okay. No debate there. Well, here you go. 17, Josh. The Dallas Cowboys.
Well, thank God
I think they jumped. I think they would have jumped on Henderson if he got here. I'm actually going local. I'm going South Jersey zone. Cesar Ruiz, Camden, best center in the draft, best interior offensive lineman in the draft. The Cowboys have hit when they draft offensive linemen in the first round. They've done a great job. I think Ruiz floats right in that vacant center spot, and that offensive line stays the strength of that team.
Ooh, okay. So your opinion there, Coffee, on Ruiz, one lineman to another.
I like it. I mean, he's a great guy. You need to build your offensive line from the inside out to your team in the trenches. If you can get a guy that can solidify and protect your quarterback, it's always a good thing. You can't have enough offensive linemen and cover corners. I always say that.
All right. So that means, Coffee, you're up at number 18. The Miami Dolphins back on the board.
My favorite player in this draft, because I'm a Georgia fan, and a lot of people around here would love him, from Philadelphia, DeAndre Swift, running back, University of Georgia, one of the most explosive guys. I've had some. I got some lunch bets with some buddies of mine that love Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin. I'm a big Dogs fan for years. I love Swift. I love his game. I wish he would stay, but I know he's got to go on, move on to bigger and better things. Miami would be perfect for them to come out of this draft. You got them taking Tua, and you got a back that he's played against in big-time games, and DeAndre Swift, a 3-down running back. I think Miami's offense will look really scary with him in the backfield.
Hey, Coffee, we might have to cock off Bear for a side bet. I'd take JT. I'm a big J. Look, I'll stay local. I'll admit my bias, but I think my pretty good talent. I think JT is going to be the star of this draft, running back wise. I think he can be a star in the NFL, and maybe talk about maybe a cheesesteak or something down the road.
I agree. I understand it. It could be like going down the road. I just said who will get drafted first. That was my bet.
First, yeah, I got you first. I hear you. Okay, I got you. I think you're probably right with Swift, but I think any team who drafts a running back first, someone over Taylor first, I think they're making
Taylor or Swift, I don't think you can go wrong. I think people are higher on Swift just because the ability he's shown against SEC opponents and to be able to catch the football out of the backfield. You need those every down backs. And when you look at a payday, a guy, Christian McCaffrey just got over $16 million a year. Those do everything running backs are starting to push the value up when it's been devalued for the last few years.
I'll say this. JT can do it all too. He can catch the ball. No, people sleep on that a little bit. He can catch the ball. That guy's a state champion track runner. That guy's got speed too.
Speed. I do understand that.
All right. Well, another team now, Al, that has their already second pick in the first round comes up, and that would be the Las Vegas Raiders.
So help me out, brother. Who did the Raiders take the first time? Because obviously I got to make sure my pick.
Jerry Jeudy.
All right. So
I gave Jerry Jeudy as well.
Jeff Gladney, quarterback, TCU.
But that sounds like a Raiders pick because you're like all excited about it. Everyone else is like, okay, whatever.
Well, he's one of the top cornerbacks in the draft. What are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
They need secondary help.
It's a Raiders pick.
I just want to make sure when I'm looking at my draft board here, I'm like, wait a minute, did they get a wide receiver yet? Yeah.
All right. So we're ever so close. We're knocking on the door. Josh, you're at number 20 with the Jacksonville Jaguars, another team with a second pick before the Eagles have drafted in the first round.
You know, I don't think they're going to go this way, but I just like to cause chaos for this show because it's. I think if Justin Jefferson makes it to 21, we're all picking Justin Jefferson at 21. So I want to throw a curveball just for fun. I'll get Justin Jefferson at 20.
Yes.
They could always use some help at receiver. Let's have some fun at 21 when we all make our picks and see what we're capable of. Jefferson could make it to 21. I'm not saying he can't, but I think he'll go higher. I think Jaguars could use receiver, and I think people view it. There's the top three. Most experts I follow, and I'm not an expert. I trust them over me. Justin Jefferson seems like he's almost the overall four pretty consistently. And then there's that question mark group from the next 10 guys that are really great, but also have some question marks. Let's get Justin out of there and let's see what everyone thinks the Eagles are going to do. Although I think we would all raise our hand that probably Justin would probably be the pick. Maybe I wouldn't, but I think Justin would probably be the safe pick for Coffee and Al at 21 if he was still there.
All right, so Coffee.
Wow.
The moment that everybody is.
Oh man, the numbers just fell like this. I get started off. Look,
I can't wait to hear this, Coffee.
I'll be honest. I love Jefferson. I think at this point, if the phone is ringing for Howie Roseman, you listen. You pick up as much as you can to move back in the first round because he may still be there. But if you're picking here, and obviously if Jefferson's already gone,
the pick
you
is
in.
in.
With Mr. Chenault out of Colorado. I mean, this guy has been amazing after the catch. You're talking about 6'1", 225 pounds, can run after the catch. He's got some of that Percy Harvin type running back / receiver ability. He did go 4.58 at the combine. People worry about that. Some people talk about he had a groin injury he was dealing with at the time. Did officially go at the pro day. When you look at that kid's tape and the people that he's gone against in the Pac-12, he's put up some amazing numbers, and he's electric after the catch with the ball in his hand. If you got Deshaun Steele, you still got Zach Ertz controlling the middle of the field. Boobie Miles Jr. Out of the backfield for the Eagles. Chenault would be a great pick here at 21.
All right, so the 21st pick, Chenault from Colorado, so the Buffalo. So pause. We'll give. So now Al and Josh, you guys will both also get a pick here at 21.
I'm going to defer to Josh first.
Okay.
First of all, if the board really broke this way, I'm trading back. I think prospects, whether it's receiver, whatever position you're going for, I think drop back to the end of the first round and get someone who fits the need, whether it's receiver, whether it's some other positions. If you have to stay here, there's some guys I would like. I would not pick a receiver here with the guys left on the board. I probably like Ayuk next. I don't necessarily think you have to take him at 21. I know people like Denzel Mims. I wonder about him a little bit as well. He basically just runs go patterns and fits the end zone, at least from what I see. So that would concern me. Hamler I like as a speed guy. I think you can get him in the second. The three guys I would circle at this spot, the way the draft broke, were Queen or Murray at linebacker. I love both of them. I love Queen. He's the guy I really like out of LSU. That guy is as instinctive as a linebacker as I've ever seen. Speedy, still has some work to do. He's only 1 year starter. I think he'd fit great. Murray is a great leader. I think he'd be great for the second level of that defense. And then the other guy would be Xavier McKinney at Alabama. I think he's very much like Malcolm Jenkins in a lot of ways. I don't think he has quite the speed as Malcolm did when he came out, but I think he would bring a level of football IQ back there that I think this defense kind of needs in the second and third level. Not speaking ill of anyone who's still there, but I think that's what guys like Murray and McKinney would really add intelligence-wise, not just the athletic ability that they have. I think they'd both fit all three there. My pick would be Queen, so I think you can get a safety later, but I think all three of those guys would fit.
All right.
Oh, here we go. So, agree with Josh as far as trading back if it's an opportunity, because you've got Queen, you've got Murray, you've got guys like McKinney, you've got some studs and wide receivers, Ayuk, who hasn't been drafted yet. But if you're going to put my feet to the fire on a draft pick, and I'm not going to trade back, although I want to trade back and I get some deals where I can really load up on some second, third picks, I'm actually going Murray. I couldn't wait to Murray. I actually watched some video today about him, and he's to your point, Josh, huge character guy, fits right in the Eagles locker room. Kind of a guy that just does great things for his family, great talent, will fit that need in the middle linebacker spot and fill that hole the gaping hole that we have here. But it's a great opportunity to trade back. This is perfect for the Philadelphia Eagles to trade back when you've got those wide receivers, the top 4 or 5 that are gone, trade back and let's start loading up, because Patrick Queen could fall in the second round.
I don't think he does, Bert. I personally don't think he does, but he could. It's linebacker. I think linebackers are treated a lot of times like running backs nowadays. I think they're higher than they used to be. I like Murray's speed. I think he's a very good linebacker. I just when it comes to linebackers, I like the instinctual guys. And again, I think Queen's instincts are for a guy who's played 1 full year as a starter, they blow me away. I know he's a little lighter, so I think maybe the Eagles go for a thump. Maybe I think Murray hits a little harder, goes downhill a little harder. But the way Queen plays in space, those are the guys you want in that second level. If it's not an Isaiah Simmons who can basically do everything, I think both would fit really well with the Eagles.
Agreed.
Yeah, so I'll just throw my 2 cents in there. I think just like
it's only 2 cents.
Yeah, only 2 cents. You probably get a penny back. So Josh had mentioned about Ohio State always hitting on the defensive linemen. It just seems like it's one after the other after the other. If this thing falls and the Eagles decide to take a pick and Jefferson's off the board, I think one of the most prolific schools that's underrated in the wide receiver category is Clemson. And I think T. Higgins would be one heck of a pick here. I think he's got tremendous hands. I think he's got the most reliable hands actually in the draft. And I think he's got that stock on the 50-50 balls that candidly our boy Carson gets, not the better end of all the time because he doesn't have that guy that's willing to go up and fight for it. So, out of the mold of
I'd love to ask Doug and Coffee. I'd love to ask both of you guys because everyone's talking speed of receiver, and you guys didn't exactly pick burners. I know Chenault's got a little bit of Colorado, but Higgins isn't that guy. Higgins is not that guy at all, and I totally disagree with you, Doug. I'm not saying he would be a good receiver. I don't think that's the kind of player the Eagles need at all. I think they need someone who can stretch the field if they go that way, or a slot guy who can kind of. Everyone is ripping on Aguilar for how he played last year, but he played pretty well 2 years ago out of the slot, and he made a world of difference. I don't think he fits. And to Coffee to you, just to throw my 2 cents in, I'm not sure Chenault has the, I see him more early as like a Debo Samuel type, but not as good as Debo. Kind of doing a lot of different things. I think the Eagles need a pure receiver guy. Personally, I'm just curious what you guys both think of those. Think of that.
I think with the roster they have now, if you've got your speedster in Deshaun, you got your possession guy in Alshon, even a guy like Ward, if you want to get into some 4 wide receiver packages that the Eagles did none of last season. They ran more 2 tight end packages than anybody in the NFL. When you talk about guys like Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert on the other side, You need some dynamic receivers that can win, either win with speed or win with physicality. I think a guy like Chenault will be a guy that can do a little bit of both. But if you can get some of your screen and your lateral game going, some of those jet sweep motions, use them like the San Francisco 49ers use their guy Deebo Samuel. Get him in some of those jet sweeps, some of those RPOs that Doug Peterson loves to run. Get some yards after the catch, because that was another position, another stat that was kind of lacking in the Eagles this past season. Yards after the catch. Who's going to be able to make a guy miss and make some down the field plays on a 2 to 3 yard route that's ran? I think Chenault's that guy, but if you go a different, I think Higgins will still be there. That's my thing. His 40 time, people are going to sleep on him. I'd love to have him right there, 21, but I think that value is too high when you can get somebody else. Higgins will still be around in the high 40s, maybe even late 50s, because of other teams' needs and because of his 40 time.
Well, if you're going to talk about Yak, then you're talking about Brandon Ayuk.
That's how I feel as well.
Yeah, then you're talking Brandon Ayuk, because he's a guy who I absolutely believe he's probably one of the best yards after catch guys in this draft.
Yeah, so
I think he's one of the most unknown. I mean, he's known, but he's unknown because we played at Arizona State, Josh.
Yes.
Yeah, Arizona. Yeah. So I've watched a lot of video on him, and I don't fall in love with guys typically. I just like what I see out of him.
Yeah.
I liked Ayuk too, and I think there's some inconsistencies to his game, but the a scouting report that I read on him that when I watched the highlights of him really stood out was the way he breaks his breaks out of moves are full speed. And you don't see that very often. The way he explodes out of breaks, in, out, double moves, whatever, and you don't see that very often. You see good running and you see that, but the way he just shoots out of it really impressed me. And I thought that was a rare trait. I totally agree with you. When you see him in space, he's pretty special.
Yeah.
Good speed. But yeah, for me, Higgins, again, going back to Doug, and I'd love to retort Doug, is just for Higgins, for me, I just don't think he adds enough dimension to this team right now. I don't think he adds another dimension. I think he's a good receiver. I don't think he adds. I think he might be a better version of JJ.
My biggest sell on him, Josh, I get the speed isn't what we need, but we're assuming Deshaun is going to be healthy, right? But the catch radius and his ability to battle for the football, like he has the largest catch radius out of all the top receivers, I think, in this draft. I mean, I wish the hands were a little bit bigger, but to me, in this offense, that's kind of a guy that finds the zone real well, is able to catch the ball in tight coverage, and he's got a little bit of leverage that I don't think that we've seen, right? Like that's been the big knock on Alshon, and it seemed like he went to be this guy that could always get the 50-50 ball. He could always shield and battle for the football. That kind of disappeared last year. Be it he was banged up, he was hurt, he was this. But most of the other guys we drafted last year, that's not their type either. So that's why I think he kind of fits in a little bit differently.
I think if you're looking to replace Alshon, I think Higgins is a good pick. I'd throw a name out there as Michael Pittman from USC. I love that guy. I think he is Alshon Jeffrey, the second coming. I think he's gonna be really good. Not just be that. I think if you're viewing T as kind of a replacement for Alshon, I think that makes some sense. I'd go Pittman personally.
Hey, Josh, can you get him in the 3rd or 4th round?
Pittman?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Well, to each his own in this draft class. You're going to see a receiver fall. I think it could be Higgins, and I agree. Coffee said that first. I think Higgins is going to be the guy that falls because of his 40. I think he's a guy you can get in the 3rd round, possibly.
Okay.
I just people want explosiveness. People want that suddenness, and but it's going to be to each his own on this one.
So is it Brandon Ayuk or is it Laviska Shenault?
Again, I prefer Ayuk. I just think he's more of a receiver type. I think he can do a little bit of Shenault does. I think Chenault's, like I said, got that more physicality. He's definitely got the more physical nature. I don't see him going in the first. I think he's a guy that could fall too, personally. Just a total hunch. I know his 18 tape was, I know from what experts say, is a lot better than his 19. I'm not going to lie. I didn't watch too much Colorado football. But from what I understand, I think he's a guy that you could see late in the 2nd, 3rd round as well, just from everything I'm reading. But, who knows?
Hey, makes sense. Kevin Allen had chimed in and said, hey, no thoughts on an O lineman. So we all kind of were like, hey, wide receivers, linebackers, no linemen.
Not the first.
They need 2 in this. They need at least 2 in this draft. They need a tackle and they need an inside guy.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure. They need to come out of this draft with 2 offensive linemen. One on the outside, one on the inside. I just don't think it's a pressing need now. I'll say this: if Cesar Ruiz was there at 21, I think that could be a guy. You know, he's playing year to year.
Yeah.
They did it with Dillard for Peters. You know, he's a year into the system now. I think they probably feel pretty good at hit left tackle. Maybe they do the same thing if Ruiz is there and the receivers are gone. I think that could be a play there for the Eagles as well.
All right. Well, we talked about a lot of names, and so I guess we're getting into what we would dub DK Metcalf land. The picks after the Eagles that we may look back and say, wow, we wish we ended up getting this guy. So Al, before we get to you at Minnesota at 22, you know, Coffee, couple of guys you're familiar with. So Anthony Tiger Jones has a challenge or issue with your shirt. New Truth.
Yeah, not this version. This is our new truth. Man. This is our brand of clothing line. And Tiger, I mean, if you're a diehard Eagles fan and a Philadelphia sports fan, you know he was one of the greatest wide receivers to ever play in the Arena Football League.
Yes,
Actually signed to the Philadelphia Eagles in training camp. Listen, guy was 30 years old. This is my cousin, so I can say he was 30 years old, and the Eagles signed him from the Arena Football League with no experience in the NFL. That's how much he dominated. I mean, 2,000 yards in 3 straight seasons. I mean, we just went crazy in the Arena Football League. Went viral because we started celebrating and dancing in the end zone after we scored way before the NFL has done it. Anything you've seen the Seahawks do in the end zone, me and Tiger have done on Instagram before in the end zone. But the Eagles signed him back when Andy Reid was there. He got through training camp, ended up getting to the last cut. But phenomenal athlete, and he's been training wide receivers. And me and him, I know he's been listening. I still think CeeDee Lamb is the best receiver on the board. He's one of the strength coaches at the University of Louisiana now. He was at Texas A&M before that, at Alabama before that. He's got an affinity for Jerry Jeudy and some of these guys. But for anybody that knows speed and wide receivers, Tiger Jones does. He's been teaching those guys the new truth in his brand down there. He's got some good wide receivers. There'll be some second-day, third-day picks down there in Louisiana this year, some of those Raging Cajun guys that can play. But we go back and forth at it all the time. And, you know, we got a little side bet as well about CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy and what they're going to do in their rookie seasons.
All right. And I guess Frank McCray wants to know where you have Notre Dame's Claypool.
Ooh, that's a good one. He's a little farther down there. I mean, let's check some of these big boards I got. Some people's got him second or third round. I see one big board's got him as low as 72. Big play receiver. Obviously, Notre Dame has played some of the top talent in the league. They put out some talented players on both sides of the ball. But when you look at the 40 time and things that he did at the combine, didn't jump off the page to get him up in the class of Jeudy and Lamb. Obviously, Ruggs' 40 time put him in that category. The after the catch ability of guys like Ayuk and Chenault have put them in that first round. And all around heralded receiver like Justin Jefferson throws them in that first round mix. But Claypool is going to be a sleeper. When we talk about second round, you're going to hear so many teams calling up and making trades because there's so much. Look, we haven't even talked about some of these other quarterbacks like Jacob Eason and these guys that are still on the board that are out there that guys can still pick up. Some of these pass rushers, some more corners. There's a lot of guys still out there. And we're just at, where we at, 22 right now?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And oh, by the way, Frank McCray said they stole your rock bottom celebration. So
he did. I will admit that when Tiger Jones, he left the Philadelphia Soul, he went down to Jacksonville. Him and one of my former roommates, Mo Ruffins, they did a people's elbow celebration. It went viral when the Rock himself retweeted it and tweeted it out. It was one of the best celebrations. So I can't top that. I had more of a body of work with Tiger, but that people's elbow, that went viral when the Rock himself retweeted.
Pretty awesome. So, Al, a lot of names thrown out that the Eagles could have taken at 21. So at 22, who are the Vikings scooping up? So we'll move quickly through the rest of the first round.
So a big name that the Vikings lost in the secondary is Xavier Rhodes. And they need to fill that position. So I've got C.J. Henderson if he's still on the board because I haven't been writing it down. Is C.J. Henderson still there?
No, he's long gone.
Oh, how about A.J. Terrell?
I took him in Denver at 15.
A.J. Terrell.
A.J. Terrell. Okay.
All right.
A.J. Terrell it is. A.J. Terrell out of Clemson.
I don't know if it's fate, Josh Friedman, but the New England apologist that you are.
Ooh, I know where he's going to.
Number 23.
Yeah, I'm lucky because I didn't actually think – I thought we were going to stop our mock draft at 21 when we were – so I didn't actually look ahead to anything going on. So I kind of lucky I fell on 23. And I mentioned it before. If another team needs a linebacker as bad as the Eagles, it's the Patriots. And if Queen's there, I don't think they'd take him. If I was the Patriots, I would take Queen. So that would be my pick.
Okay.
So I didn't pay attention to class. Did Xavier McKinney already go off the board? Because I think that would be a great spot for him too. Would you agree with that, Josh?
He has not. That could be a good spot.
Yeah.
I don't think they would go with McCourty still there. Maybe he's playing year to year. Maybe they'd go McKinney. He would certainly be an option. I think linebacker is the biggest part. I think Murray or Queen would be my picks first. I think there's some safeties I like. I think they're a trade down candidate too, because they just sent their second rounder for Mohamed Sanu last year, which didn't exactly work very well. So I think they're going to team that. I fully expect them to trade back. I know some people think Jordan Love, since he's there, maybe they go quarterback. See it. I think they give Stidham a shot. But I think trading down might be a spot. And if I know I talked about McKinney earlier. The safety I love is Antoine Winfield. So I think whoever is just going to get a star. His dad was amazing. I think he's going to be amazing.
Oh yeah.
But McKinney could go. McKinney could certainly go there. Alabama ties. He would certainly make sense with the Patriots at 23.
Yep.
So, Coffee, why don't we make this a nice even 24, and then we'll kind of open things up and talk about maybe the rest of the Eagles' needs in the later rounds here. So, at 24, you got the New Orleans Saints.
Just looking at their roster, they're kind of loaded offensively. They pick, guys. You got Michael Thomas. You got Emmanuel Sanders. The offensive line is good. Jared Cook at tight end. Alvin Kamara is still one of the best backs in the league. Defensively, I'm just looking at their roster. I mean, Cameron Jordan, Sheldon Rankins, Marcus Davenport, Janoris Jenkins is a second-round pick. Those other guys all first-round picks. Kiko Alonso, second-round pick. Marshawn Lattimore, Malcolm Jenkins, they just got back. Both first-round picks. I think they go linebacker. They stay right there in state. It'll be, a celebration statewide for them to pick up national champion Mr. Queen at middle linebacker from the LSU Tigers.
Yeah, I just picked him for the Pats. Come on.
I'm sorry. I thought that was hypothetical. Well, if Queen is not there, you got. I apologize. Then you still stay in state because I think they still got some needs. You might go wide receiver there. You may go Jefferson. You may go Grant Delpit. I think LSU guys going to New Orleans to the Saints is kind of like a tie-in, just because guys love to be able to stay home and they love being able to watch those guys week in and week out on Saturdays. I may go Grant Delpit there. Future safety. I mean, Jenkins is a little bit older. I think he's a high guy on the board. Some people have him as a top 10 draft board, maybe not falling, a little bit below that. But I like Grant Delpit. I think he's the best safety in this class. And if he's still there, it'd be hard for the Saints to pass him up. For them to pass him up.
Man, so a ton of talent for sure, but two local guys, Josh, that we haven't heard taken just as of yet, as we're already 24 picks in, would be Mr. Taylor and Mr. Hand.
Yeah, JT is not going to get past in the top 50 picks. Once the running backs start going, he's going to go. And I think he'll be a success wherever he goes. I mentioned earlier, I'm biased. I'm totally biased. Not going to doubt that. Not going to deny that at all. But you can't watch that guy at Wisconsin. You couldn't watch that guy at Salem. You just can't watch that guy and think he's not going to be a star. Louis Riddick said so the other day. He thinks he's going to be a superstar. I know Greg Cosell is really high on him. Those are scouting eyes that I really trust.
I love Greg Cosell.
My own eyes too. He's a superstar. Running backs might be devalued right now, so whoever gets him at this point is a steal, because he'd be, I haven't done a big board, but he'd be top 20, top 15 on my big board without a hesitation. And then Harrison Hand, I loved watching that guy at Cherry Hill West. Bounced around a little bit, went to Baylor, and then came back to Temple. Had a nice year at Temple. He's a mid-round guy. I think you could see him, as early as the fourth round, maybe the third. But I think more fourth, fifth for him. I think he'd be a nice addition. He was electric when he was here. I think he'd be a really nice corner for anyone who picks him.
So real quick, Coffee, by the way, looks like Kevin Allen's saying whoever between Judy and Lamb gets picked by Denver will win that side bet. So I guess somebody's in the mix for a cheesesteak there between you and Josh. So I don't know. And then what else we got here? Frank jumps back in. You got to focus, Coffee. That was a false start. He's throwing a flag on you for
because
hey, listen, I try to get out. I got some edge rushers that I've gone against in the Arena Football League that like to jump the snap and play in some loud arenas. I couldn't hear the snap count. Hey, I got to move early. You see Jason Peters, sometimes you watch the Eagles tapes where you're like, I know Jason Peters was offside. He was clearly a second hit, but he gets that because he was a veteran. I wasn't a veteran yet, so they flagged me a few times. But, hey, that was more yards for our offense, for our receivers.
All right, well, so speaking of some other local guys, I know we're only talking maybe what the Eagles' next couple round picks are, but Josh, some other guys, I know that, you have mentioned that you think like, hey, hopefully I get a chance to get drafted, but if not, certainly going to have a chance to compete for an NFL roster spot. One's a very well-known name by the Eagles fans, and Runyon.
Yeah, I think he'll get paid. Morristown, got family from Morristown, I believe. Didn't play in South Jersey in high school ball or anything, but certainly a South Jersey, family and so forth. For every draft I've seen is more. He's going to get picked, I believe, late 6th, 7th round. That's what most mock drafts I've seen him is. I've seen him a lot of times in that 7th round. As a Patriots fan, I've seen him actually mocked a lot of times in that 7th round of the Patriots. So,
okay. Coffee, any thoughts on another local product in another quarterback, Flacco?
Obviously, the blood ties and the ties here with his brother Joe Flacco being a hero in this area, and obviously in the Baltimore area, former Super Bowl MVP himself and a champion. I think there's just a little bit of a hesitation with him. He's got not as much flash and sizzle as some of the other quarterbacks, and once you get past Herbert, Tua, and Joe Burrow, obviously, teams start to look at projects, who they really fall in love with, and who do they think their coaching staff could be able to turn into the next superstar, the next Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson type. And even teams like Baltimore, where you look at what their offense has been able to do with Lamar Jackson, they could gamble on a guy to jump above Flacco, a guy like Jalen Hurts with some athletic ability they can plug into their offense and not necessarily take the best pocket passer, but take a pure athlete and be able to move and be mobile with him. A guy like Flacco, obviously, he's got a decent arm, not overly strong arm. We're not really worried about the athleticism or the measurables. Mentally, I think he understands it. Obviously, being around his brother and being around the game for so long, I think he could be a later, maybe 6th or 7th round pick.
Okay. So, Josh, any other guys on the local scene that you're hoping to have their name called, even if it's late?
Yeah, I mean, Sean Bradley from Temple, linebacker, had a really nice year. I think he has a possibility sliding into that in the late part of the draft. I think a lot of guys will get shots. The guy like Flacco, Bradley are going to get shots in the NFL. Jamal Parker from Penn State, I think has a shot to I think he'll make a camp. I think a lot of guys will make camps. I think if after Hand and if you count Runyon, I think the next dart, if I had to pick one, would be Bradley. RV, Arancocas Valley, really nice Temple. I think he has as a decent. I think he has an outside shot of getting picked, but I think he'd be a priority free agent for somebody.
Okay. So aside from the guys in South Jersey, for Coffee and Al, you guys both went receivers for the Eagles the first round. Josh thinking, on the linebacker front. So Al, get into the second round. Where do you foresee the beloved Bird picking? So if I'm not mistaken, as I'm kind of looking at my draft board, Eagles have pick number 53 overall.
So obviously, guys, it depends on where we go and how we go about the draft. If we trade back, then there's a number of options for us. I really think that secondary could be an opportunity if we do pick a wide receiver in the first round. Let's just say it's Brandon Ayuk. Let's just say it is. Mm-hmm. Maybe a guy like Jalen Johnson in the secondary out of Utah would be a nice spot to fill in that other cornerback position. You agree with that, Coffee?
Yeah, he's got a lot of speed. I think he could fill in the slot or on the outside. I do like that pick.
Yeah, and that's where I would kind of go. And again, obviously, it's a very fluid draft. I would love, again, I'm gonna hate to repeat myself. I'd love to see us trade out, but if Brandon Ayuk's there, it's hard for me to pass up because Josh so eloquently stated how fast he's out of his breaks. You can't teach that. So. Yeah. It's a guy that you got me fired up about Brandon Ayuk all of a sudden. I was thinking about him going late first into second round. So,
well, I think it's possible you can get him in the second round. Yeah. This is going to be an each his own receiver draft. I mean, you could even see I know Hamler for a lot of people might be the 10th receiver. He might be the 5th receiver. Ayuk same way. Jalen Rieger from TCU. Mm-hmm. Mims is going to be a first round pick. I'd probably bet if I had to gamble. I'd say Mims is probably your next guy off the board after Jefferson. That'd be my hunch, just because of the pure athletic profile. I don't think there's any reason. I think you might maybe have to move up in the second, but I think you can get Ayuk in the second. And I don't see there. I don't think it's impossible to believe he wouldn't be there at 53. At least personally, I also think Hamler would be there at 53. And I don't love the drops. I think he had something like 20 or so in the last couple of years, or he's had a lot of drops that scare me. But you can't teach that speed, and he's explosive. I think you can fix that. As a Patriots fan, I'll say this: Julian Edelman had some of the most drops in the NFL last year. I think everyone would take Julian Edelman, and you don't view him as a guy who has a lot of drops. So there are guys you can live with drops for that, and I think he's that Mecole Hardman kind of guy that everyone was talking that the listener was looking at earlier. If you're looking for an Alshon type, I think Michael Pittman's going to be. I don't think he's going to be the guy everyone's like 5 years from now is going to be like, wow, that guy was, how did everyone look over him? But I think he's going to be a guy who's 10 years in the club. He's had a really nice career. I think he's Alshon light right now. And I was big on Alshon when he came out of college. I was my buddy of mine in college was a big South Carolina fan, so I watched a lot of Alshon, and he was special. I liked him a lot. So
hey, Josh, dare I say, is he anything like Mike Evans is fast, but he's not like lightning fast. Is he a little bit like Mike Evans or no?
Pittman?
Yeah.
No, he's
for
more.
Size?
For me, Alshon's the comp. Alshon, when he was younger, could win downfield, but he didn't. So he had a burst, but he wasn't blowing by people. He got by, maybe got a step, and then use that big body to make plays. I think more Pittman would maybe could play big slot a little bit, but really he's an outside guy who's gonna win with his size and his great hands. He's not Evans with that speed, in my opinion. No, he's a 4.5 guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Well, I know again the Rieger seems to be popping up on a lot of people's radar, but for me, I don't think it's a stretch to think that if they don't get a receiver in the first round, that Pittman is the guy that they eye up in the second. I think they might have to trade up to get him, though. I don't know that he would still be there at 53.
I've seen him in the 4th round. I mean, that's the thing with this draft. There's so many good receivers. Just don't know.
So many.
Yeah. So Coffee.
I would say Rieger. I would say Rieger in a second if that's the case.
Okay. So Coffee, you want a receiver first round in theory for the Eagles. So what would the second might look like?
I think at that point, if we stayed at receiver, I think you go and you try to get another guy. If KJ Hamler's still there, I think he'd be a good pair. Because again, Deshaun's he's over when she get over 30, and you get more expensive, teams start to look to replace you with younger talent. I think Hamler's a guy there. You could even start to go with your offensive line if you haven't addressed the linebacker issue at that point. If you're going to go offensive line, as a kid, I talked about, Tiger Jones being a coach down in Louisiana, Raging Cajun, Kevin Dotson. He's kind of a sleeper. Pro Football Focus called him as an interior offensive lineman in this draft. He could go as high as late second round at 53. If he's still there, why not start if you're going to give Carson some weapons first, give him some protection second, and go with an offensive lineman.
And for me, I say this: if receiver went first, I look at safety. Maybe Winfield falls. The Jeremy Chin guy, the FCS kid, you look at his numbers, they profile really close to Isaiah Simmons. Is Isaiah Simmons light? I'd love to see just what anyone does with him. I have no idea if he'll be good or not, but I'm just kind of curious. I think safety is a bigger priority over corner in my opinion. I think there's going to be some safeties there. That would be probably the direction I'd go at the second round if they went receiver 1.
I like it.
Big Packer fan Nick Ward, who says he'd love to see the Packers all over a speedy slot to pair with Funchess and Devontae. I don't think you can argue with that one. They got a lot of guys on that team from a depth perspective from a receiver. I mean, wow. There was guys that showed up last year that no one ever heard of, and they were able to compete and get the job done. But definitely want to give a special thoughts and prayers to you, Nick. I know with your grandma just passed away, so again, my best to you and the family for sure. And I know you're looking forward to some Packers football to make things, as we'll call it, relatively normal again for you, buddy. But yeah, so Packers, man, they're going to be another dangerous team again this year. They just never seem to go away.
They don't.
And Big Dot, first team All-America. So
Kevin Dotson, that's what he's talking about. First team All-American out of Louisiana. Went down and did some good things at the combine. We're talking I mean, the guy was my size and in better shape than I was. I was a defensive lineman all my career. Didn't want to move the O-line. Ended up doing it after I turned pro and started playing overseas in Italy and different places. But this guy's a true monster. I was 6'4", 321, played guard his entire career. You plug him in at the left guard side, opposite Brandon Brooks. You got an all-pro on the right side between Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, and Jason Kelsey. You plug this guy in with Dillard, I think that could be your offensive line to go forward. Protect Carson Wentz. You got the two best tight end group in the league. You got your franchise quarterback. Let's go put up some points, Eagles.
Yeah. Al, so Eagles in the third round, Tiger actually punches back here, and he's like, hey, what about running back Raymond Calais? And
yeah, he's another one. I seen him in some of those All-Star games. He had a nice kick return. I forget I think it was the NFLPA All-Star game he played in. Kind of a speed guy that Tiger's been working with, some of that new truth, and ran in the 4.4 range at the combine. And they got some talent down there in the entire state of Louisiana. I mean, just so much talent.
Yeah, so Al, third round. So I know we're really stretching the field now, guys, because we're going real deep. I know Josh said he was going to offer a pretty handsome bounty for anybody, or no, maybe it was Coffee that said anybody that can predict the first round and just hit on every single pick. I mean,
wasn't there like $1 billion challenge for that?
Yeah, and it should be more. There's $1 million for the perfect practice.
I could be totally mistaken though. I thought there was $1 billion challenge to hit.
I've heard of it. But I don't think you can't do it. You can't.
It's almost impossible. Good God, that's crazy.
So you can
I'll put $1 up.
There you go. Hey, look at you. All in it. So I guess Al, pull out your tarot cards and try to read us into the third round. So where do you go in the third round?
So the Eagles are at 103rd pick in the third round, right? Overall, 103rd pick overall. I don't think Jeremy Chin falls there, and I think you guys would probably all agree with that. You're obviously looking for value here, and we don't know how this whole draft board is going to play out. I don't even think Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle, is going to be there as well because I think he's more of a second round. So why don't we go running back? Now, mind you, we don't know where the running backs are, but let's go running back A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, from Boston
College. Love him.
Listen, I love the way he's built, but how Josh kind of came at me in the first round. Is that really what a need is? Like you look at his frame and you look at guys like Sanders, and then you look at a guy like Boston Scott. I mean, what are you getting in this?
Bigger guy.
But again, it's just, to me,
he's your power back.
It's too early. Like we could have held on to Jordan Howard. It's too early.
So you're all right. So all right, you want a guy. Okay, let's see if we can get a quality guy here. Hold on, give me a second. Hold on. Let me just take a look at my draft board here.
I'll give Al a little. I'll
go ahead, Josh.
I actually like the idea of going running back. If with you not predicting, I'll say this: when it comes to drafts, you feel like you can get a good running back third, fourth round. A lot of people say the value. There's a lot of value there, so I could easily see him going that way. Maybe a Zach Moss of Utah if he fell. Again, a bigger compliment Miles Sanders. If the way I was kind of looking at it earlier, I know we were trying to project like a perfect three round draft. I was kind of seeing in that area. I'm a Florida. I like a lot of Florida football. I've watched Florida football for a long time. Zuniga, defensive end over there. I love Barnett and Graham. I think good edge, but there's no depth behind them. He's a guy. He's a lottery ticket. Hurt last year, and you see some flash plays with him. He's not consistent. But in the third round, why not throw a dart on a guy who could be could be a Pro Bowl with that kind of athletic ability and has some really great traits. His numbers at the combine were out of this world. 103, a guy like Zuniga from Florida, an edge guy, gives some depth. That would kind of be the way I go if running back or maybe an interior offensive lineman or offensive line wasn't there. And I'm not going to lie, I can't pick an offensive lineman's name that I had at that point. So go.
I know. It's like throwing – you're like kind of like you got all these people you want to pick from and you don't know where to go right now because you don't know how the draft board's running. That's the whole part. It's such a fluid situation. But I like your pick there, Josh, definitely.
Coffee, what do you think, man? Third round.
I think you can kind of go back corner at that point. There's a kid out of UCLA, Darnay Holmes, that I like. He's a West Coast kid. I got affinity to some of the guys. He ran a 4.4 at the combine, so obviously, everybody's speed jumps off the page. He's only about 5'10". He's got a little bit of flexibility to kind of play into the slot and maybe a little bit outside. He's made some decent plays. I mean, this guy was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school a few years ago. He's got some kick return abilities as well. I think a guy like that, Darnay Holmes out of UCLA, could be a good fit for the Eagles, especially when you talk about after the first 2 rounds, you're talking value now because you're getting guys at cheaper contracts for 4 years going forward.
So may I add something? So you talked about defensive end, right? Alex Highsmith. I don't know if anybody's seen any of the tape on him. He's out of Charlotte, not a big school.
Mhm.
But you watch this guy explode off the line. That's a name I want you guys to remember. Alex Highsmith, defensive end out of Charlotte. Go on YouTube, watch this guy. He's insane. Insane of his explosion. He's a very explosive ball player. He's a little raw, but if you work with him, it just the raw skills are there.
All right, that's fair. Real fair.
And he's right around that pick, by the way.
This is where I kind of think I might sound a little off the rails, especially in the 3rd round, especially after my comment about, the Eagles really need a running back in round 3. What about a tight end?
I wouldn't be opposed late, but I don't think Ertz is going anywhere. I don't think Goddard's going anywhere. Tight ends are still kind of undervalued as far as salary cap implications are concerned. So if you want to re-sign Ertz when he comes up again, it's not breaking the bank, in my opinion. I like Dallas a lot. I think he's going to be a really good player too. For me, and you guys have mentioned defensive tackle. That defensive tackle for me were 2 spots that you don't invest in really. Those would be the two positions. If I had to axe 2 positions from the draft board, it'd probably be those 2. I know defensive tackle had some injuries last year, but I still like Malik Jackson quite a bit. I know Hassan Ridgeway played okay when he wasn't hurt either. Both with Hargrave coming in, Cox. I think defensive tackle is pretty set, and tight end's pretty set. I'd throw a dart at quarterback at some point, really any other position as well. But those tight end and defensive tackle for me would be the 2 positions I'd kind of, unless the board fell to you perfectly, and you just loved a guy, he was really valued. Those would be the 2 positions I didn't attack.
So here's my thought process on this one, right? With the Eagles running that 11 formation, they love to use 2 tight ends in certain sets, right?
Well, more than anybody.
So a guy like Claypool, so I think McCray had mentioned him, right? Frank had said, hey, what do you think about the kid from Notre Dame? Claypool. This kid, 6'4", 4'4" speed. He's just like a hybrid type of player. I could see that guy being able to run up the seam on one side where you got Ertz on the other, and then you got a guy over the top like Deshaun Jackson. I mean, to me, I feel like he's a weapon. I just don't know, is the 3rd round too early for a guy like Claypool, but I really can't see with him having that kind of speed as a tight end to be there after the 3rd round.
Well, what I've read about him a lot is, first of all, I've seen him in the second round.
Yes.
For some people. So if he fell to the 3rd, I mean, certainly would be a value there. But I know people call him whatever. Some people call him a receiver too. Not necessarily a blocker. A move tight end in that way. So I mean, another weapon. Weapons aren't going to hurt the Eagles, that's for sure.
Yep.
As Coffee so eloquently put earlier, they need as many weapons as they can get. If you go tight end, though, for me at least, I don't know how Coffee feels as one of the big boys. I want a guy who can block, and I'm not sure Claypool is that guy inside.
I think it's a need. And I think it may be a little bit skewed. When I looked at some of the stats, I love charting personnel, being in NFL films with Charles and Baldy. They love personnel groupers. Greg Cosell, I worked with him a lot. They love every week to know who's in what personnel, who's actually on the field. Then you can start to see what guys value and what they're going to look for in the draft. The Eagles ran more 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends than anybody in the league by far last year. And it was more than their 11 personnel. Usually they were 3 wide receiver team. Obviously, injuries had a lot to do with that last year. They had to condense it, place tighter, stronger formations. But look what that does to the defense. Now you got to figure out, do you want to play your nickel and have a DB trying to come up and tackle Miles Sanders or get off a block of Dallas Goedert? That creates a matchup. If you play big with your base personnel, 2 linebackers, there aren't 2 linebackers in the league on one team that can guard both Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, or have one guard Miles Sanders out of the backfield. Mm-hmm. You got some, even Scott out of the backfield. So you got some matchup problems the Eagles can create. When you look at their tight end roster right now, and behind those 2 guys, Joshua Perkins, Alex Ellis, maybe you can get some value out of those guys in the second round, and maybe some undrafted free agents. I think you stick with your offensive line, building more depth there, and even then at cornerback again, if you could start to pick at some of those cornerbacks that are falling through in those later rounds, you can get some good guys to fill in some holes in your roster that you need, and not necessarily pad yourself when you got two pretty much all-stars in Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert.
We're really into this game for sure, so I'm going to say we'll call it the 2-minute warning because I can't believe we've already burned off like 9 minutes in this episode. So, guys, with 2 minutes, let's call it left to go late in this draft, are there guys that maybe stuck out on the board that you have a big interest in and you want to talk a little bit about, hoping that Lady Luck falls to possibly the Eagles and you get to see us end up with one of these guys? So we'll go with Josh.
I mean, for me, I not really. I mean, I'd love to see I think an ideal situation if they went receiver one, if they went that way, somehow get like I mentioned earlier. I love Antoine Winfield. I don't think he would get to the middle of the second round, but I think that'd be the dream scenario for me. Your favorite receiver. I think again, while I think linebacker is the biggest need, if Justin Jefferson fell to you at 21, I certainly would have no objection going that route.
Yeah.
I think pretty much everyone here would be pretty happy about that. I think most Eagles fans would be too, having seen his name with every mock draft at there. But I think safety is a big need. I like Mills. I think he's a good player. I love his confidence. I don't know what he'll be at safety. And Rodney, Rodney's a good player, but not having Malcolm is such a big thing. And having a guy like I said, McKinney from Alabama or Winfield, some guy with an IQ like that in that second, I think they're going to miss it a lot. And so if you got a guy like Winfield who has that really just a great football mind, I think it'd be a dream scenario. I don't think it happens, but that'd be a huge wish.
Cool. Al.
So I agree with Josh. Antoine Winfield, definitely. But if I'm going to take a different guy, Jeremy Chin, or even from a wide receiver perspective, Devin Duvernay, who I really like. I've seen a lot of his tape. I love the way this kid plays. And he's probably going to be more of a mid-round to late-round pick, right? Would you guys agree with that? Maybe mid-round, late fourth, early fifth, which is going to fall right in the Eagles' wheelhouse. You guys look at some tape on this guy. Woo! Love him. He would fit nice in the Eagles uniform, man. But Jeremy Chin or Devin Duvernay. They're my two names.
Okay, Coffee.
And linebacker, that's another need we talked about for the Eagles. I mean, I could see them going that way with a second-round pick. If the chips fall the way that they move back out of 21 and pick up a couple extra picks. Look, you don't really have any third-round picks right now. I think a guy that you could look at from Texas Tech, Jordan Brooks, is linebacker, went 4.5 at the combine. I've been watching Brian Baldinger do some breakdowns on his Instagram and social media. I mean, this guy's a tackling machine. A lot of people think he's the best run defender in this draft at the linebacker position. And for something that you lose a guy like Malcolm Jenkins, which as great as he was in coverage and as a mental leader, he was a great run defender. And you're going to need somebody to step in when you lose Jenkins, Bradham, and some of these guys up front. If somebody can double team and get up to that second level, you need a guy that can get people on the ground. I think Jordan Brooks is a good prospect to look at.
So, Doug, 6 names I have written down. Jordan Brooks is one of them, but I didn't pick him. Good call there, Coffee. Good call.
Thank you, sir.
Cool.
And props to Josh on Antoine Winfield. I love him too, but I like him, Winfield. And how about Ashton Davis, guys? Do you like him at all?
I haven't watched the film. I know some draft nicks that I follow really love him. I've seen people have him as the top safety on the board. And then I'll throw one more just because I took a second round guy. If Eagles are looking for outside receiver early, Van Jefferson from Florida, playing the slot for a long time. He's not going to necessarily be. He gets open. He's not going to break a game breaker, but he'll catch 40, 50 balls every year without a problem, in my opinion. So,
all right.
Awesome.
Good stuff all around. Gentlemen, I greatly appreciate you spending this fine evening here, getting people pumped up and excited for the NFL draft. So my last question would be, in Quarantine Nation here, where are you guys going to end up watching the draft? Is there anything special? And is it coming up with some kind of creative place? I mean, Coffee, you got like a lake that you like to hang out by?
I take my walk after I do a little exercise every day. Personally, I wish I was down near Caesars in Las Vegas. I got some family out there. My sister Leslie, I was supposed to be out there with y'all doing a lot of stuff, the NFL Network. So sadly, I won't be there in Vegas, but I'll be right here in front of a couple. I got a couple TVs set up. I'll get my Fire Stick and my Apple TV. I'll watch a little bit of ABC, a little bit of, have my little headquarters. I can watch different draft rooms and, talk to some people. I'm probably be on FaceTime with Tiger Jones, and we'll be going back and forth at it when CeeDee Lamb gets picked before Jerry Jeudy, and we'll have some fun with that.
All right. Josh, anything out of the ordinary, far cry from being there with the crowd in Philly for sure this year?
I'll be on my couch. I'll be resting, and hopefully my wife will take care of the 2 kids so I can watch for the end of the night so I can watch the draft because she knows how important it is to me, and I know my wife will do that, and I love her so much for it. So,
all right, smart man. Al, how about you, man?
So I've taken I got my stimulus money, by the way. So I went out and I purchased.
So you're buying, right?
Yeah, I got a couple of blackjack tables. I got a couple of slot machines. So I'm going to make myself feel like I'm in Vegas. Put it down in my man cave, which is it's a pseudo man cave, and we're going to feel like we're in Vegas for this draft, and we're going to watch it right down in my basement. But no, seriously, guys. Obviously, I'll be hunkering down. I'll probably go down in the pseudo man cave and watch it down there. But this is Christmas Day for me, guys, and I'm not kidding. It's been a lot of fun with you guys, so knowledgeable, and a lot of fun hearing your perspectives, and it just keeps. Every year I get older, you think you're going to slow down, but all I do is feel the adrenaline keep building. I'm still like a kid again right around this time. It's awesome. So thanks again.
Cool. Well, for now, guys, that's it. So maybe what we can do, get back together at some point after we see just who the Eagles end up picking at number 21. One of you, hopefully, at a minimum, win some bragging rights and the ability to break the chops of somebody else. But until then, for this week in, Top Shelf Sports, the NFL Draft Special here on BFA, for my buddy Coffee Jones, Josh Friedman of the Courier Post, my brother from another, Al Fisher, Doug Stasuk, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Doug. Hey, Friday, we get a recap of the first round, Friday afternoon, before it starts second round. Let's get a recap.
Ooh,
let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
All right, guys. Good night.